So for those who don't know me, I'm the CEO of WeWeb. WeWeb is a no-code platform to build front ends for web applications. And so it's kind of a drag and drop tool that looks like Webflow, but you can connect it to any backend and you can build front-end workflows. You can build front-end workflows with it. And so our customers, they build internal platforms, they build customer-facing applications. And so the main use case is when you want to build pixel-perfect front-end, and when you need to build web application on top of an existing backend or a backend of your choice. Also, one of the main differentiation with other platforms is that WeWeb outputs clean Vue.js code, and you own the code. So you can download the code, deploy it on your own infrastructure if you need, or you can just like deploy in one click on infrastructure we provide as a service for our customers. And so today, the talk is about trying to make sense of the concepts of no code and code in times of AI. Because since I would say, like Alex said, when Sonnet 3.5 was released, it was kind of a seismic shift, right, in the tech world, and especially for developers like us. And I call us developers, all of us, right? It's coders or non-coders to us are developers. And so for us, all of us, the arrival of AI is a critical shift, technological shift. And so for us to try, and so it creates a lot of confusions, right? And so for us to try to make sense of this, we need to try to predict the future. And predicting the future is a really tricky thing, right? It's super, super hard, especially since, AI is advancing so quickly. It's very hard. So I'm not going to try to predict the futures like 10 years from now, but at least like say 24 months or 30 months, 36 months from now, is going to be a good thing for you to try to make better decisions, but also for us. And so I wanted to, give you as much value as possible today. And so to give you value, I thought, what is the most valuable things we have internally at WeWeb today? And that's probably, our industry knowledge. And so I'll try to share our industry knowledge with you all. So first of all, our methodology to try to predict the future. And second, our predictions. And so I'll probably make a lot of mistakes. But what I really hope is that it's going to spark interesting debates between us all. Right. So first, methodology. I really like this image because it shows two things. The first thing it shows is that the future is unevenly distributed, which means that some people have access to technology and knowledge, some others don't, and this creates tons of confusion. And this also creates unfair advantages, obviously, for those who are exposed to the future. And so it also shows another thing, that the world is in constant change, and progress is a guiding vector of change. And so this is kind of a underlying trend that we can all rely on to try and predict the future. Right. A nice example I like to give with the future unevenly distributed is people who invested in NVIDIA stocks. And so as you can see, the exponential curve happened sometimes in 2023 and 2024. But in Silicon Valley, everybody knew that at some point, when people would start to catch up with AI, NVIDIA would skyrocket, right? And so again, being exposed to the future enhances your decision-making capabilities. That's pretty obvious, right? And gives unfair advantages to make decisions. And so, yeah, I really love this chart because in Silicon Valley, basically people started to invest in NVIDIA in 2020 or 2021, and then the stock skyrocketed. So it's kind of a fun and silly example, but just apply this knowledge then to your business, to your decision-making processes, and you will see that trying to predict the future is one of the most important things you can do. All right, then another important thing that we do at WeWeb is to try to figure out what is immutable, right? So in a world of constant change, there are a few things that are immutable. And if you know those immutable things, you have, I would say, you have things you can rely on to try and predict the future, right? Because there are things that are always a moving target and things that don't change. And so in the presentation, I'm going to tell you about two things that we think that are immutable. One is the underlying tech trends, and the second are what people want. And that's how I will make a link with your presentation. So first, I will tell you about the underlying tech trends. This is a graph that shows the SWE benchmark. I don't know if you guys know what this is, So this is SWE stands for software engineer and software engineering. And so this is the benchmark that is being used by LLM providers to try and figure out how powerful an LLM is at coding. And so Sonnet 3.5, when it was released, was ranking 49%. And so basically this benchmark is real life coding exercises. And so they give those exercises to the LLM and see how they score, right? And so they were scoring 49% when Sonnet 3.5 was released. And when Sonnet 3.7 was released, they scored 62%. And with a custom scaffold, so not available for us, but basically for them internally in their labs, it scored 70%. And remember, Sonnet 3.5 and 3.7 are only 9 months away from each other, right? So what that means is that the LLMs are improving super fast at coding. And very soon, what the LLMs provider are saying is that probably by 2026, or maybe by the end of this year, they will score about 90%, right? So today, we all know, like when we use LLMs, AI, etc., those AIs, they do a lot of mistakes. What we know now internally, if you base yourself on those tech trends, is that those AIs won't do so many mistakes anymore in the future, right? They will score 90% and they will just get better and better and very quickly. So that's something very important to know. Another big friction when using AI today is the context window. And so I don't know if you guys know what context window is, probably yes, but the context window is all the context you can give to an AI for it to perform tasks, right? And so today, Sonnet 3.7 and 5, they have only 200,000 tokens. I think Gemini has something like 1 million already today. But by the end of this year, the context window for most LLMs will be about 1 million. And for you to know, how important context window is that you can give, for example, as a context, the full design system of a company, or you can give the full security requirements or technical requirements. You can give a GitHub repo, for example. And so 200,000 tokens is very small, right? So if you have a big application and if you give a task to an LLM, most probably it will not have in context everything. So it's like having a good developer in your team, but who just got started, right? He doesn't know your company, he doesn't know how exactly you work. But soon this is going to be solved as well, and this is very important to have in mind, because most probably by the end of this year or early next year, the context window, like I said, will be 1 million at least for every LLMs. For some of them, it's going to be 5 to 10 million. And so by some sense, that by 2026, it's going to be 10 million tokens, so like very big applications, repositories, etc. And some said that by 2027 or a bit later, it's going to be infinite memory. So what that means, again, if we follow those trends, is that AIs will be very good at coding. By the way, the SWE benchmark is also taken by developers themselves. And there is only, I think, less than 1% of the top developers who score more than 90% on that SWE benchmark. So it means that AI will be the best of the best developers, that's first. And second, they will have infinite memory. So they will have the whole context of your company. They will code exactly as you wish. So this is a big shift, right? So we have to take that into account. The last piece of information, which I think is also very important, is that for the prices of the token is a race to the bottom, right? And why is that? It's because right now the LLM providers are really working on optimizing their algorithm internally. And so as they are optimizing the algorithm, basically the price of the tokens are falling. And if you mix that with competition, and also other tech trends like quantum computing, energy management, etc., you can easily predict that the prices of those tokens will go down as the quality of the AI will go up. Okay, so it means that AI will become a utility like water or electricity. It's an important thing to have in mind. That's it for the tech trend. Then we have what people want. And I think this is something also very important to know because it's kind of immutable. Although AI is a seismic shift, what we all want as developers doesn't really change, right? And so what we did at WeWeb since last summer, we interviewed, I don't know, hundreds of people, WeWeb users, non-WeWeb users, AI users, AI leaders, and we tried to make a conviction internally on, what do people want and what is immutable in what they want so that we could predict what's going to be the future of code and no code. And so we came up with those three simple things. People want productivity. Developers, want productivity. So the tool with the highest productivity wins, but it's not at any cost. They also want control. And control is very important with regards to quality, security, what the AI does for you is obviously critical, and they need to trust what the AI does. And so if you think about this thing, it's exactly the same thing when you manage a team, right? So you want people who are productive, you want people, you want a certain set of control processes, etc., and you want to be able to trust them. And so the relationship to AI is very much like a human-to-human relationship when it comes to an organization. I think this is something very important to take into account. Right, I'm just checking my notes just to make sure I didn't forget anything, because now I'm getting into the tricky thing, which is the predictions. Give me a second. Yeah, there's also one thing. With regards to productivity, one thing I wanted to touch upon is there's only so much one person can do in one day. And so right now, when you learn a tool, you invested a lot of time learning that platform. And so therefore, to switch from a tool to another, it's costly, right? You don't really want to invest a lot of your time to switch from a tool to another, unless the productivity spike is like gigantic. But this is going to change as well, because AI is flattening the learning curves. Because right now you'll be able to use AI for almost any tools to get started. And so therefore, to switch from a tool to another for anyone is going to be much easier in the future. All right, let's go into the tricky part. Now the predictions. So thank you, Alex, because I got inspired by your presentation yesterday. I really like it, actually. It's pretty tasty. Okay, so here are the predictions. And so we made predictions for the role of the builders, developers, of the world, how it's going to evolve. And then the tech, how the dev tool environment ecosystem will change. So the first prediction is that, based on all the things that we just discussed, developing will largely be commoditized by AI. And vibe coding, as we call it, will probably be the default building method as AI progresses. And so the vibing part will be a majority over the coding part. So it's obviously a profound, it has profound implications on how we think about structuring teams. Orchestrating AI and controlling its outcome will be what matters most for builders and developers. And so we feel and think that builders and developers will become more like orchestrators, controllers, and so we'll go up the organization ladder and start rather controlling AI agents rather than building themselves. And like I said, as the learning curve gets lower, thanks to AI, the digitization will also explode. So I think it's good news for all of us, because we are here like all participating into the digital economy. And I think this digital economy will explode. The size will grow at a very, very fast pace, even faster than what it is today. And because AI will empower everyone, and especially people with deep domain expertise, that's exactly what you said, it's going to bring more ideas to the world. And so what's going to matter is really what problem are we solving rather than what tech are we choosing. And so the most valuable experts of the digital renaissance, as we call it yesterday, or the digital democratization, will not be builders who only build, but it's going to be orchestra conductors who understand problems, fix problems, and manage the entirety of the product lifecycle. So it's like talking to users, understanding a problem, coming up with a solution, releasing it, getting feedback, improving it, and it's more like, instead of just like building a feature, I think AI will do this, right? Building the feature, AI will do this. What's going to matter is understanding the problem and orchestrating the AIs to actually build this for you. Right, so these are strong statements. And so maybe some of you don't really agree with all of this. But I'm really curious, and I think we should have that debate, because, AI, no code AI is obviously the elephant in the room right now. And so, yeah, I really hope that, we can debate about it, because this has obviously strong implications on all of our professional lives. Now, what's going to happen of the dev tools? Huh? Okay, yeah, I'm almost good, almost done. The dev tooling landscape will adapt to this change. So it's either embrace AI or be left behind. And so we already, started to see it. Like most of the platforms are starting to add AI capabilities to their tools. Tools will continue to be highly categorized by tech level. And so I come with a good news in this regard. I think there will still be no-code tools and code tools. And I think the category no-code itself will first continue to exist, but second, and that's going to be part of the conclusion, will actually thrive. And it's probably the best time ever to be in no-code today, thanks to AI. Because so that's very important to keep in mind, because keeping control for a person who knows how to read and write code is not the same as keeping control for a person who doesn't, right? And so then products will adapt to this. And so there will be products like Cursor, for example, who will be dedicated to developers, and other type of platforms that will be dedicated to people who don't know how to write and read code. And so the category will continue to exist. Another thing is that the quality of the product themselves will generally improve as building will be largely AI assisted. So the products people will create, the quality of those products will be better. And I think it's a good news for everybody, for the end users and for us builders. We know that thanks to AI, we're going to do less mistakes. Tools will look very much less like Frankenstein platforms, you know what I mean? And I think like many more people will actually be satisfied by the work that us builders are doing. And so dev tools specialized in building only will probably transform and become orchestration platforms or product management platforms. So those products that are hyper specialized in building will probably add more features so that you guys can become the orchestra managers. Right, conclusion. Okay, so no code will still be no code, and that's a very good news, but it will be largely AI assisted, if not entirely AI assisted. And if the mission of no code was to enable anyone to build for the web, I think thanks to AI, AI will be the driving factor to make this mission become a reality. Code will also still be code, right? But it will be largely AI assisted, if not entirely AI assisted. So it's going to be, actually, it's like, take the same industry and the way it's organized as it is today and just project it. One of the big shifts, I think, in our market, in the no-code market, is that today we have subcategories. When you take no-code platforms, you have no-code platforms for fairly technical people, very technical people, much less technical people. I think this will all collapse into one category, which is no-code, and that's it, because like most of it will be completely AI assisted. So again, the knowledge of building will not be what matters most. And so that's the conclusion. So what does that mean for us, builders? Will our knowledge and expertise be completely outdated and replaced by AI? I think the answer is no. And we have this analogy internally at WeWeb, is to be a good orchestra conductor, you don't need to know how to play every instrument, right? But you need to understand how the music works. You need to understand how a symphony is constructed, how to set a pace, how to direct every musician so that things come together in harmony. And so we will need and want to become orchestra conductor to stay useful and for this industry to thrive. Thank you very much.